Hello friends, welcome back to OK Java. Guys, in this video we'll talk about REST API interview questions. Alright, guys, very first question. What do you understand by RESTful web services? You can start your answer by saying RESTful web services are services that follow REST architecture. So guys, what is REST? REST is an architectural style. Okay, REST stands for representational state transfer and it uses HTTP protocol for implementation. Okay, these services are lightweight, provide maintainability, scalability, support communication among multiple applications that are developed using different programming languages. Okay, they provide means of accessing resources present at server via the web browser by means of request headers, request body, response body, and status codes. Alright, so guys, if you answer this particular question, that what do you understand by RESTful web services, if you answer by using these points, that is more than enough. Okay, let's move to the next question. What is a REST resource? Every content in REST API is considered a resource. The resource is analogous to the object in the object-oriented programming. They can either be represented as text files, HTML pages, images, or any other dynamic data. So guys, whatever you see in the REST API is a content. Okay, the REST server provides access to these resources, whereas the REST client consumes these resources. Every resource is identified globally by means of an URI. Let me show you Postman. So guys, I'm going to make a GET call to get the student 1. So what do you see here? This data, guys. So this is the student object having ID, name, first name, last name, and email, right? So this is an object. In REST, this is also known as REST content. Not only the object, you are dealing with files, HTML pages, or text file, or PDF. So everything is a resource. Okay, let's move to the next question. Yes, next question is, what is URI? So URI stands for Uniform Resource Identifier, which is used for identifying each resource of the REST architecture. Here's the format. You will have your protocol like HTTP or HTTPS, your service name, resource type, and the ID. For example, let me take you to, so guys, if you see here, this particular endpoint, let me make the GET call. So what do you see? This particular endpoint is known as URI. Okay, so here it has got the protocol HTTP or HTTPS because I'm running on localhost. So it's HTTP, but in production you will have HTTPS. Then your server name and then your resource type, right? You're talking about students, and then the ID. Guys, next question. What are the features of RESTful web services? First feature is the service is based on client server model. What does it mean? My localhost is my server, okay? And the client which I'm using is Postman, okay? So REST architecture or RESTful web services follows the client server model. There is going to be a server which will host your data and you will have a REST client to consume the data, okay? Next point, the service uses HTTP protocol for fetching the data or resources, query execution, or any other functions, okay? So guys, whatever you see here, right? Then we have got put, patch, delete. So guys, these all are HTTP protocol functions. Okay, these resources are accessible to the service by means of URIs. So URIs, as I mentioned, your endpoints. Next point, it follows the statelessness concept where the client requests and responses are not dependent on others. So guys, stateless is very important feature. So basically, in very simple words, REST server does not maintain the user session. Okay, let me give you one example. Say for example, you have got this particular application called, what do we call that? Flipkart is one application. As a user, like you are a user, if you log in once to this application, you don't have to re-log in again. Okay, you can go and make use of whatever pages you want. All right, so basically as a user, you just have to go and log in once, and then Flipkart right here on this particular application, your server maintain a user session. So that session will keep all your information, so you don't have to re-log in again. You don't have to re-authenticate yourself as long as your session is valid. Once your session is expired, you have to re-log in, right? But in case of REST API, REST server does not maintain the user session. So what does it mean? It means you are making a call to REST server, right? So you have to pass your username and password with the HTTP request. So if you are calling this REST server 10 times or 20 times or 100 times, you have to pass your username and password every single time. Okay, why? Because the server does not maintain the user session, so you have to authenticate yourself every single time. Okay guys, next point is these services also use the concept of caching to minimize the server calls for the same type of repeated request. Okay, so caching is just a mechanism to keep the most frequent data at the server side to avoid the unnecessary call to the server. Next point, these services can also use SOAP services as implementation protocol to REST architecture pattern. Okay, so we'll talk about this particular point at later point of the video. Alright guys, let's move. Next question, what is the concept of statelessness in REST? Just now I explained, right? The REST architecture is designed in such a way that the client state is not maintained on the server. Okay, so we are sending a request to the server and you're getting a response, right? So every time you have to tell to the server that who you are and what level of access you have. Say for example, you want to make a get call, so every time you have to provide your ID and password that yes, I am authorized user to access this particular information. Or say for example, if you are making a post call, you have to provide your username and password saying that I do have the right set of permission to perform this particular operation. Okay, so server doesn't know about you, so as many times you have to reach out to the server, you have to provide your user ID and password. All right guys, let's move. Next is, what do you understand by JXRS? So what exactly is JXRS is? Java API for RESTful web services. It is a Java based specification to implement RESTful services. Okay, JXRS library makes use of annotations from Java 5 onwards to simplify the process of web services development. The latest version is 3.0, which was released in June 2020. This specification also provides necessary support to create REST clients. Okay, so guys, JXRS is a Java library to design RESTful APIs. Okay, let's move. Next is, what are the HTTP status codes? Now guys, the very easy way to memorize the status codes is like you have to memorize the sequence. Like for example, there is a sequence for 100, 200, 300, 400 and 500. Okay, so 100, from 100 to 199, so this particular series represents informational responses. Okay, from 200 to 299 represents successful resources, like we have got 200, 201, 203, like that, right? Then 300 series, 300 to 399 represents redirects or forwards. Okay, then we have got 400 series, 400 to 499 represents client error. So wherever you see this 400 series message, it means there is a problem with the REST client. And next one is 500 series, so wherever you see 500 series, it means there is a problem with the server. Okay, so guys, you can visit this particular endpoint, this particular URL to read more about the HTTP status codes. 200, which is success or okay. 201 is resource created when you make a post call or a put. Okay, 400 is bad request. 401 is unauthorized, it means like you don't have sufficient access. 403 is forbidden, it means like you are not authorized to perform that particular operation. 404, resource not found. 500, internal server error. 502, bad gateway. So basically this is that we did not get the response from the server. Okay, so guys, these are the most frequent one, but there are many more. So what you can do is you can visit this particular link and you can read about all the most widely used or most frequently used status codes. All right guys, next question, what are the HTTP methods? So we have got GET. So GET is used for fetching the details from the server and it is a read-only operation. So this is my REST client Postman. What I'm doing is I'm making a GET call to this particular endpoint. I pass the ID 5. If I go and hit this particular button, what do I see? I have got information, right? So GET is to retrieve, to fetch the information from the server. And guys, you can see like I'm getting the information, right? So this is a read-only operation. I don't have access to update the resource, to delete the resource, to modify the resource, because I'm performing GET operation. So GET is a read-only operation. Okay. Post is used for creation of new resources on the server. The next one is put. Put is used to update the existing resource on the server or to replace the resource. Then next method is delete. So this method is used to delete the resource on the server. patch function we use to partially update a resource. Then next one is options. So this fetches the list of supported options of resources present on the server. So guys, let me explain these functions quickly by using the postman. Okay, let's talk about post first, right? So here I have choose post is my function. Here is my endpoint or URI, and say I want to add one more resource. So post is to create new resource. Okay. Say for example, I'm adding here a new resource called Virat Kohli. Okay. Let me send this request. What do I say? I have got 201 resource created. So post method is used to add or to create a new resource into the server. If I go and run, right, let me just go and fetch the resource which we just added. Now number 7, we have got Virat Kohli, right? Next is put. So we use put function to update the existing resource. So for example, I want to update the email address of Virat Kohli, right, or some other information. So I have to pass the ID as well. Okay, so say I want to keep the name as Virat Kohli only. In the last name I want to add Anushka Kohli. Okay, and say email also I want to change it to virat.kohli@gmail.com. Okay, so put function is to update the existing resource. Okay, let me send the request. What do I see? I have got the information, updated information. Basically the name is still Virat, but we have changed the last name and email as well. Okay, how can I verify? I can go and make the get call again for resource 7, send. So this is the new information. If I go and check the previous one, so initially we had Virat and last name was Kohli and email was virat@okjava.com, but now we have changed the information. Okay, so guys, points to remember: put function is used to update an existing resource and you have to pass the entire object. Okay, you have to also mention the ID for which you want to perform the put operation. Clear? Now say next is patch. Guys, patch we use to update an existing resource. Put is also to update the existing resource. Patch is also to update the existing resource. Now the difference between patch and put is that in put operation you have to pass the entire object. Patch is you want to partially update a resource. For example, I just want to change the email ID. I don't want to change the first name and last name. I just want to update one or two attributes, right? So whenever you want to partially update a resource, you go and make use of patch operation. Okay, so here I'm passing that I want to change the email ID of Virat Kohli again to say what. Okay, here I'll pass ID and say email. I'll call it as kohli.virat@gmail.com. Okay, like that. Let me make this end request. So what do you see? I've got a message saying that email updated for ID equals to 7. How can I go and verify? I can go and make a get call to resource 7. What do I see? We have got the updated email address, right? So guys, I hope you're getting the difference, right? Put is to update the entire object. You have to pass the entire object. Patch is to partially update a resource. So you just have to pass whatever things you have to update. Okay, you don't have to pass the entire object. To partially update a resource, go and make use of patch. Okay, let's move. Next is guys, delete operation. Delete is to delete the existing resource. So I'm going to delete the resource where ID equals to 7. Okay, so ID 7 is Virat Kohli, right? Let me just go and run this one. What do I see? I've got a message, resource deleted, status code 200. Okay, okay. How can you verify? We can just go and click on send. What do I see? Resource not found, because we have just deleted. What is the other way? I can just go and fetch all the resources. So what do I see? I've got only 6 resources. I don't even see the 7th resource, which was Virat Kohli, right? So delete is to delete an existing resource. Now guys, one thing, if you want to delete, you have to be very much careful that to delete you have to pass the ID. Okay, in case if you do not pass the ID, what will happen? It will delete all your resources from your database, right? So obviously you don't want to do that. So make sure that you handle that particular scenario. Okay, I hope you guys are fine with the HTTP methods. Now guys, next question, what are the CURD functions? So as I just explained, right, post is to create a new resource. Get function is to read the resource, to get the data, to fetch the information, right? So that is what read is. Put is to update an existing resource. We can use patch also, right? So put. And then to perform delete, we use delete method only, right? The post, get, put, delete corresponds to the create, read, update, and delete operations. Okay, so interviewer can ask you like how can you perform the CRUD operations. You simply go and tell him about the post, get, put, and delete. You can use these functions to perform the CRUD operations. All right guys, I think we are good for now. I'll come back with the next video to cover rest of the REST API interview questions. Thank you for watching, and please do share and subscribe the channel. Thank you.